Welcome to our fan-produced Season 2 of Sanditon. My name is Carolisa O'Brien, and I've written this play as a continuance of the Sanditon TV series written by Andrew Davies. Both the TV series and this play are based on the last unfinished novel that Jane Austen began in 1817. If you've not yet seen Season 1, it may be seen on Amazon Prime, PBS Passport, or BritBox. For those who have not seen it, I will very briefly summarize the first season now. Tom Parker, the eldest brother in the Parker family, has gone too far into debt, trying to build his little town of Sanditon into a seaside resort like Brighton. His brother Sidney is in love with the heroine of our story, Charlotte Heywood. But in order to keep his brother Tom out of debtor's prison, he engages himself to a wealthy widow named Eliza Campion. The first episode of our Season 2 begins a couple months after Sidney's engagement. We return to the village of Willingden in Sussex, England, where Charlotte Heywood lives with her many brothers and sisters. I am so pleased to have with us Caroline Jane Knight of Chawton, the fifth great-niece of Jane Austen and founder and chair of the Jane Austen Literacy Foundation. She will narrate a majority of our episodes. And now we proudly present to you, Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk.
In an orchard on the Heywood estate in Willingden, Charlotte's younger brother, Harry Heywood, is shaking an apple tree. Apples rain down as his sisters, Charlotte and Alison, collect them into baskets. Their little sister, Helena, and several other siblings laugh and play games as they toss cider apples into baskets, and a few at each other.
Charlotte, catch!
Very nice, Harry. Now, how about pitching them into the basket?
Have been.
Harry misses the basket and Helena gets hit in the arm.
Charlotte! Harry's throwing too hard!
Boys, be more gentle. The more you throw at each other, the longer it takes to fill the baskets.
Let them play, Charlotte. This is our last year to pick apples all together.
Our last year? So you and Charles have set a date then?
Not yet. But he just heard of an open curacy, and if he gets that, we could get married this fall.
Really? But where is it?
He wouldn't say, but he's riding over to speak to the vicar today.
Charlotte's attention is drawn away to the road where the farmer's cart rumbles along, at the same spot that Tom Parker's carriage overturned the last spring. She flashes back for a second. Alison notices her silence and guesses where her mind has gone.
It seems like just yesterday the Parkers were here.
Seems like a lifetime to me.
You are different since you came back. Sadder, I think.
Well, I've learned a hard lesson. We cannot always have something just because we want it.
The younger Heywood are not paying any attention to Charlotte and Alison's conversation. Their apple fight increases in ferocity, and Harry gives the tree a tremendous shake to get the apples down from the top. Charlotte is hit by an apple in the back of her head.
Ow! Harry, don't shake it so hard.
That's exactly what I must do to get the apples down.
Alison is hit in the shoulder by an apple thrown by Samuel. She grabs her arm in pain.
Ow!
Boys, you are only to throw the soft apples and not so hard, if you please. Someone will get hurt.
Oh, that didn't hurt.
Oh, indeed. I think you need a dose of your own medicine.
Charlotte hurls an apple at Samuel. He ducks and the apple hits Alison square in the eye.
Oh, Charlotte!
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant it for Sam. Does it hurt?
Well, a bit.
Oh.
You all right?
Yes, but that's enough for a while, eh, Sam?
Nice bowling, Charlotte. Hey, Jay, who's that coming down the hill?
Oh, it looks like Charles.
Charles who?
Who do you think? Our cousin Charles. Alison's Charles.
Charles.
Alison runs down the hill to greet Charles Heywood with an embrace. He's a well-built young man and effortlessly swings his fiancée round full circle before they start walking slowly back up the orchard.
Why did you not tell us you were coming?
And ruin the surprise.
What brings you to Willingden?
Must I have a reason?
Yes.
Well, then, it is to visit my fair cousin. Should I need another?
You have so much to do. I think there must be another reason.
No. You are all the reason I need.
How long can you stay?
Not long. I have a wedding to prepare for in 3 weeks.
You just took orders last week and you were already performing a wedding.
Assisting the vicar. The vicar will be there.
Then I think you can stay at least 1 week, or even 2. You do not need to prepare for reading a service.
It's a bit more involved than that. I know the bride particularly well.
Your sister?
No.
Cousin Priscilla.
Priscilla? Now you're being silly. What is she, 12?
She is 15.
Oh. No, it's not Priscilla, I confess. I did come here on a small matter of business with your vicar, in addition to seeing you.
With old Mr. Tyler. What business?
He's ready for a younger man to take over. He's given the currency to the chap by the name of Heywood.
Charles!
Which means that we can be married soon as the banns are read, if you don't mind being poor.
I count myself the richest girl alive.
I'll take it the plan suits you then.
Oh, yes.
Oh, but my dear, what has happened to your eye?
I was victim of eye for an eye justice.
Heavens! Are you still boxing with your brothers? You know you ought to give that up before becoming a minister's wife. Should I be worried?
No, silly. My brothers will not live with us in the parsonage.
Perhaps I ought to take a few boxing lessons if this treatment that I am to expect.
By this time, Alison and Charles have reached the orchard. The children gather around him.
Charlie, shake the tree, Charlie, shake the tree. I bet you can't get the top ones down.
Well, let's see if I can't.
Charles climbs the tree and gives it a vigorous shake. More apples come raining down. More shrieking ensues. Charles jumps down and picks up Helena, swings her round until she's dizzy.
Now, which one of you rapscallions accosted your sister?
Oh, that would be me, sir.
You, Charlotte.
But it was Sam's fault. He was throwing the apples.
Ah, then I hold you both in contempt for blighting such a fair maid, and I shall not tell you my very great secret.
You can tell me, Charlie.
Yes, I can see you are to be trusted. Very well. Alison may tell you if she so wishes. It is also her secret, you know.
Alison whispers to Helena. Helena looks at her with wide eyes.
May I tell the secret?
Yes, you may.
Alison and Charles are getting married. That's no secret.
When?
3 weeks.
They will live in Willingden.
A general hubbub erupts, with the younger children dancing around the couple. Charlotte gives Alison a hug. The older boys shake hands with Charles, which soon erupts into a wrestling match.
Is Charles actually 25 years old and in orders?
You couldn't tell it by looking.
Charlotte looks at the apples strewn all over the ground, with only a few in the basket.
I don't think Father will be making much cider this year.
A half hour later, Mrs. Heywood is applying confit cream to Alison's blackening eye in the kitchen of Heywood Great House.
Do you think it will heal by my wedding day?
Well, we could hope for the best. I'm surprised at you, Alison. A great big girl of 18, and you, Charlotte, fighting with your younger brother. We will be lucky to have anyone look at you if you keep behaving like so much children.
You need not worry about Charles taking back his offer. He's waited 2 years already.
He would better if it were 2 more. By then, Alison and Heywood, you might acquire some decorum befitting a parson's wife.
But I am much better behaved of late, am I not, Mamma? I only wanted to pick up the apples one last time, because we've done it every autumn. Sam was just being a tease.
There now, all finished. I suggest that you stay out of the village until your color comes back to normal. What a story that would make at the Squire Fraser's. It might knock the edge off the Fraser boys' appreciation for you, Charlotte.
On the contrary, Mamma, they would recruit me to bowl for their cricket matches.
Probably. They are more interested in cricket than dancing, I dare say, which gives all the more credence to Anthony standing up with you for the only 2 dances that he danced last week. He did not dance the rest of the night.
Neither did his brother. They looked like they would come to blows. You'd better choose one of them, Charlotte, before they kill each other over your hand.
At least then they would not plague me with their poor attempts at poetry and recitations of Shakespeare. If you had only married John, I would have but one Fraser to deal with, but neither of them is a match for me.
And why not? I'm not so sure it was a good idea for you to go to Sanditon last summer, Charlotte. It gave you lofty ideas.
I knew I could never marry either of the Frasers before I went to Sanditon, Mamma.
But Anthony has grown so handsome this year, and he will come into a pretty piece of property soon.
Is that why he has grown so much better looking?
Of course not, but you do agree he does look dashing in his new blue coat, and his hair has darkened exceedingly since he was a boy.
His blue coat is rather dashing. I would like Charles to have one.
Perhaps you can ask Anthony for it when he discards it next year. He gets a new colour every winter, with 3 coordinating waistcoats.
For one who cares so little, you know a good deal about Anthony Fraser's dress.
It's common knowledge. Mrs. Jimson is so generous to share all her customers' business with the entire village.
I never hear you speak of any other gentleman's waistcoat colours. For instance, the Parker brothers?
Charlotte gently holds Alison's forehead, inspecting the darkening purple of her bruising eye.
I do recall Mr. Arthur having one very near this shade of violet. Do you know what the best treatment for a black eye is?
What?
An onion poultice.
Charlotte picks up a handful of raw onions that she's been chopping and threatens to pack them onto Alison's blackened eye. Alison defends herself by grabbing Charlotte's wrist to prevent the attack.
Oh, no, you will not. You've done enough damage for today.
Girls, please! I did not raise my daughters to be savages.
Sidney Parker is standing in the upper hall of the Sanditon Hotel. He raps at his friend's door with his cane. A valet opens the door. Behind him, we see a handsome young man of about 30 in a white shirt and light breeches. His cravat hangs on his neck untied.
Is he ready yet?
Not yet. He asks if he may meet you at the ball.
May I come in?
The valet looks at his master for permission, then opens the door to admit Sidney to the suite.
Hello, my good fellow.
How long before you are ready?
Pleasant evening, is it not?
Well, it will be over before you are dressed.
All in good time, Parker. Beauty cannot be rushed, at least not in my case. It must be excessively convenient to slap together tails and breeches and look so presentable.
So, I'll meet you at the assembly rooms then.
Afraid so, my good chap. My cravat is not even started. Give me an hour or so. Trot along. Hitch up your filly. I'll be there in time to relieve you of one dance at least.
All right.
Sidney leaves the hotel to walk down the street to a handsome townhouse where Eliza Campion is staying. As he's admitted by a servant, Eliza comes down the stairs to meet him, greeting him with a kiss on the cheek.
You look well in that colour.
Thank you, darling.
Is that not the same necklace you wore when we were introduced?
Is it? Oh, yes, you're right, Sidney. How sweet of you to remember.
That was a happy night.
Yes, it was. And so is tonight. How did I give up all those years of happiness? But now they are behind us. Perhaps it was all for the best.
I couldn't say.
Must we go to this ball? There's never anyone to dance with except for you.
My brothers are no one.
You know how Arthur dances. His exuberance is so disruptive. Now that the Babingtons are gone, I will have little choice but to dance with him, or I'll sit out the rest of the night.
Oh, Tracy is here now. He will give you some respite from Arthur.
Thank goodness. Your friend is an excellent dancer, and has a very good notion of dress. I dare say he could rival Beau Brummel, as much care as he takes with his cravat. I approve of him very much, much better than that scare of a crow that hangs on Babington's tail. I've already agreed to give Tracy a dance tonight, but the first is reserved for you, of course. And I hope you will give me a couple more, for Arthur will surely ask me. You must rescue me.
As you wish. Let Tom have at least one, though, or he will feel slighted. You know how much importance he puts on such things. As for Arthur, you may have to sit out if you wish to avoid him.
If you see me sitting, it means I am ready to retire. I see no reason to prolong the misery of this assembly.
If it is such a misery, I wonder why you came all the way to London.
You know why I came, darling. I missed you.
The maid puts on Mrs. Campion's wrap, and they leave the house for the ball.
How glad I will be when we can shake the sand of this town from our feet for good.
Have you grown tired of it already? You used to adore Sanditon.
Yes, but I hope I have better taste now. As soon as we can dig your brother out of the hole he's dug for himself. I do not care if I ever see Sanditon again. Brighton is where all the people of fashion go.
Well, this is the last ball for the autumn. You can go back to London tomorrow, if you wish. I found a ship sailing for Antigua in a month.
I don't see why you have to go to Antigua. Send a lawyer down. Surely they can sort it out for Miss Lamb as well as you can.
I cannot risk it.
Did I tell you my wedding gown is ready? All we have to do now is send the invitations. If you must go, Sidney, let us be married before you leave.
I don't want to leave you right after we wed. Let's leave it until I return. Then we can have a nice wedding trip.
But we've waited 10 years already.
I hope Mr. Campion did not think you were just biding your time for 10 years.
Sidney, you must not joke about that.
I'm not joking.
The past is best left in the past, my dear.
It's a frosty autumn day. In the Heywood farmhouse kitchen, the children are doing schoolwork around the table. Alison is helping her younger brother with sums. 14-year-old Sarah is working on a needlework sampler. The kitchen maid and Mrs. Heywood work over the stove. Just around the corner in the great room, Charlotte looks on while Helena ploughs through a minuet on the pianoforte. Charlotte looks out of the window to the road on the hill and flashes back to the day Sidney rode after her as she left Sanditon. Helena plays a wrong note and jars her back to the present.
It's a B flat, dear.
There, I played it 5 times. What next, Charlotte? Charlotte? Charlotte! Are you thinking about Sanditon again?
No. Maybe.
Charlotte, can you stir this for me? Oh, goodness me, where has the morning gone? Your papa will be home at any time.
Maybe he'll bring a letter from Mrs. Parker. We've not had one since last month.
I think I'd rather not hear from Sanditon.
Mr. Sidney is surely married by now.
And I wish him well.
Quite right, my dear. No use fretting over what we cannot change. I do wish, though, that you would consider the attention that Mr. Fraser pays you. He would be very good to you.
I know, Mamma, but his face is so red, and I do not love him.
He has a solid character. He's not unkind, and that's more important than being handsome. You may grow to love him.
I know, Mamma, but I do not want to start a marriage with a wish for love. I want to have it in hand. I had hoped we would have heard what had happened by now.
Perhaps Mrs. Parker is not feeling well enough to write.
She did say her pregnancies have not been easy.
The outside door opens and Mr. Heywood enters, his hands full of bundles. Alison takes them from him.
Sugar, Pa?
We do not need any sugar.
We have gone without sugar for so long. The slave trade has been abolished for 10 years. I think we can indulge a little. Besides, we need some for Alison's wedding cake, do we not?
No, I will not eat any sugar until I know that every last slave has been freed from that godforsaken West Indies.
Yes, Mamma. We know your views.
Well, I suppose I will make an exception for a wedding cake, Alison. Have you heard from Charles? I thought he was to come to the parsonage today.
I suppose he was delayed. He never turns away from anyone who needs help, which means he rarely gets away on time.
It was providential that he did not come back before your eye was completely healed.
As if that would change his mind.
Oh, yes, my dear. I have a letter from our friend in Sanditon.
Do you, my love? Alison, take up this hen, and if you will make the gravy, Charlotte, I will read the letter to you all. My dear Mrs. Heywood, thank you for your kind letter. I am so pleased to learn of your bountiful harvest this year. I am sorry that your cider was not as much as expected. I should be glad to have your recipe for black butter. The batch that my cook made did not turn out this year. Tom's brother Sidney has been staying for a couple of weeks. Leave us soon to prepare for the journey to Antigua, where he will defend his ward against the challenge of her inheritance. Mrs. Griffiths and her pupils will remain only a little longer in Sanditon before they are returned to town. Indeed, we are surprised that they had not gone long ago, as the wind on the beach is brisk this time of year. I want to say again how much I enjoyed Charlotte's company last year. Now that she is gone, the village is almost empty. I confess that I am very lonely. Yesterday I learned that our nursery maid of 5 years has to be married shortly. Is it too soon to trouble you for another visit from Charlotte? Forgive me for trespassing on your kindness so quickly, but if you will be so good as to indulge me this favor, I promise to see that she enjoys whatever autumnal amusements that we may contrive. Indeed, the sea is as beautiful in autumn as it is in the summer, despite the winds, and if she would like to prolong her visit, she may join us when we go to London this Christmas, and we would be so pleased if Miss Alison could join her, if she so desires, if she can be spared. With kindest regards, Mrs. Mary Parker.
He's not married.
What?
She said nothing about him being married. Surely she would have said if he was.
But maybe they are waiting until he returns from the journey. Stir that gravy, dear. It might be going lumpy.
Well, well, my dear. Charlotte's only been back a couple of months. We do not want to lose her so soon, do we?
I would not, but if I read between the lines, it sounds as if Mrs. Parker may need her help. They have been most generous. Did you see the ball gowns that Charlotte brought home? They are too fine to wear here in Willingden.
That is rather the danger of the place. I fear your taste will become too refined, Lottie. You will never be content at home again.
Oh, I don't know, Papa. There are many things I like about home that Sanditon does not have.
Such as lumpy gravy.
Yes, and good black butter.
But, my dear Mrs. Heywood, can we spare Lottie?
Let me see. The potatoes and carrots are in, the preserves are mostly done, and at Sarah's age, it's high time she learned some cookery. So, yes, I think we may spare her.
You know, Polly could do all of the cooking if you would but let her.
Yes, I know, but I will do it better. And if my girls need to cook when they marry, it will be a good deal better for them to and their husbands if they know how. Would you like to go, Charlotte?
Well, if I can help Mrs. Parker, I suppose I should go. I only wish that Alison could come as well.
She could have, had we not already published her banns. But I suspect Charles will not want to wait until the winter to be married.
No, he will not. If she would have asked a month ago, I might have gone for a while. I would love to see Sanditon.
Oh, yes, Alison. I stopped into the church to see Mr. Tyler. He told me that there is typhus in the parishes around Eastbourne. I thought Charles to come to the parsonage today. Have you heard from him?
No, but it would be just like him to delay his trip if any of his neighbours were sick.
Yes, Charles is a good lad. He will do a lot of good in Willingden. Surely we shall see him by tomorrow.
That night, one of the Heywood servants' girls gives Charlotte a letter as she and Alison prepare for bed. She looks at it and reads the name with difficulty.
Are you sure this is for me, Polly? The address is barely legible.
Yes, miss. My brother is a groom for the Frasers, you know, and he brought it over when he came to see my mother. He said Mr. Anthony gave him strict instructions that it be delivered only to you.
Thank you, Polly.
Charlotte opens the missive by candlelight in her shared bedroom with Alison. She reads it to herself and begins to smile.
A good letter, then? He must think he has a chance if he's writing to you.
Oh, Anthony. He's attempting to be a poet, after a fashion. He rhymes Jove with love. The lips with trips. Well, I shan't make fun. He's trying to be sweet. I want to dissuade him, but I cannot bring myself to be that direct. I don't want to be rude. The Frasers have been our friends for so long.
Perhaps you could be more direct in a note?
Perhaps. Oh, but there's the assembly ball coming up, and his sister always invites us to their house for the day before and after. If I write the refusal now, I shall have to refuse her invitation as well. But I hate to disappoint her.
It sounds as if Sanditon is looking better and better, whether or not Sidney Parker remains.
Especially if Mr. Sidney does not remain. Alison, I've decided. After your wedding, I am to Sanditon.
The next day, a letter arrives for Mr. Heywood. He brings it into the kitchen where Polly and Charlotte are baking. Charlotte is whisking eggs, while Alison is copying out recipes. Charlotte stops to rest her hands for a few moments.
Let me take a turn, Charlotte.
No, the bride does not make her own wedding cake.
Papa, is that a letter from Eastbourne? Is it from Charles?
It is from his father. It appears that there are several with typhus in their village. As you suspected, Alison, Charles did what he could to help those who were sick. And he caught it.
Is he very sick?
Yes, I'm afraid he was. You may put away the cake, Charlotte.
Papa? Is he... Oh, Papa.
Mr. Heywood holds out his arms, and Alison walks into them, crying, with Charlotte immediately after. 2 weeks later, Charlotte and Alison are in a coach approaching the sea.
You will like Sanditon, Alison. It's a happy, bustling place.
I do not see how I can ever be happy again, Charlotte. I cannot be happy without Charles.
We were happy before Charles, were we not?
Yes, but
Charlotte takes Alison's hand and says nothing for a while.
In time things will look brighter. There, I can see the tea shop and the library. And that's where the terrace sat. They've cleared away the rubble.
Is that where the fire was?
Yes, that is where Mr. Stringer lost his father.
You've talked a good deal about this Mr. Stringer. He's the stonemason.
He's more than a stonemason. He's very clever and has read up on architecture, and he helped Mr. Parker with the plans for the terrace. He would do great things. I know it. And he's ever so pleasant.
And not ill-looking.
Indeed, he is not at all ill-looking. But it is his manner that is most pleasing. You will like him very much. He may be a degree or two lower than what Mamma would consider eligible, but he would get along very well with Papa.
So, I take it that you are over Mr. Sidney.
Oh, I was not thinking of Mr. Stringer like that.
Oh no, of course not.
I was not. Indeed I was not.
The carriage stops at the Parkers' door. Mary and the children come out to welcome the girls.
Charlotte, welcome. So good of you to come. Oh, come in, come in. And here's Miss Alison. I'm so sorry to hear about your cousin.
Thank you. You were very kind to invite us.
Well, we must see what we can do to brighten your spirits. Mrs. Griffiths will be leaving with her girls on Monday next, so I was thinking of having a dinner party here on Thursday.
Oh, please, don't trouble yourself on our account. Surely you need to rest.
No. Now that you're here, it will be right as rain. And now we have Miss Alison to introduce. I've put you both in Charlotte's old room. It has such a nice view of the beach.
The servant, Sims, shows the girls to their room. Alison immediately sits down in the window seat and looks over the seascape with a pleased expression.
Oh, Charlotte, it is so beautiful.
It is, isn't it?
Mary meets Charlotte coming out of her bedroom. They walk down the stairs together.
All unpacked?
Yes. Alison is resting. She's quite done in from the journey.
How is she coping with the death of her cousin?
I must say, she's taking it very hard. We have very little mourning.
The poor dear. I hope we can take her mind off of it for a while. I'm hoping Thursday's party does the trick.
As am I.
I do hope Lady Denham will come. She has not been very friendly since the terrace fire. She's not taken tea with us even once, and I've invited her several times.
And the debts? Is she still demanding that they be paid?
Tom has begun to pay her back as much as he can spare.
Is she still threatening debtor's prison?
She has not renewed her threat since the ball, but we live in constant fear that she will. She seemed to take a shine to you, Charlotte. Maybe you will be our agent of reconciliation.
Oh, that is more Alison's strong suit. But I can try. I thought I might call on her today.
Oh, do, Charlotte. She will take notice that you called on her so soon after your arrival.
Will you go with me?
The little one is very active today. I'm not feeling quite up to it. Do you mind terribly?
No. I enjoy solitary walks. Her park is very nice. I shall go round by the Hollis Falls and see how they look in autumn.
That is an excellent idea.
Charlotte walks to Sanditon House. As she nears the falls, She sees a tall man resembling Sidney with his back to her. She decides to walk quietly by, but he hears her and turns around. It is indeed Sidney. Charlotte pauses for a split second, then walks on.
Miss Heywood!
Charlotte stops and turns around. He strides up to her.
Mr. Parker.
Mary said you would be coming today.
Yes.
And did your sister come as well?
Yes, she did. She's resting at Trafalgar House.
Ah. And your family? They are all well?
Yes, very well. Only we lost our cousin to typhus. He was to marry Alison last week.
I am sorry to hear that. Had they been engaged long?
These 2 years.
I'm very sorry. Are you on your way to Lady Denham's? Or just out for a walk?
I am to call on Lady Denham.
I did not think you would be so eager to visit on your first day.
I thought I would do whatever I could to smooth things over.
Tom and Mary will appreciate it. I am charged by Mary to deliver her dinner invitation in person. The Babingtons are down again. If they come, it will give Lady Denham added incentive to come as well.
I see. Well then, that should take precedence over my social call. I think I shall go back and call on her another day.
Charlotte stops and turns around.
Stay, Miss Heywood. Can we not call on her together? We both have a commission of sorts from Mary. Besides, I'd rather not go into the lion's den alone. She seems to like your forthright manner. Come, you must be my talisman.
All right.
I noticed you were about to pass me by without speaking when you came upon me just now.
I was surprised. I thought she had gone back to London.
I brought a friend down. Her name's Tracy. He enjoys the seaside, so he is prolonging the visit.
It's not exactly sea bathing weather.
Indeed. Dr. Fuchs assures us that bathing is most beneficial when the water is brisk. But perhaps you are not a convert of Dr. Fuchs like Diana and Arthur. Truly, I think the only reason they subscribe is so they can follow it with a hot shower bath. I hope, Miss Heywood, that you are not so uncomfortable that you cannot speak to me. Despite what has happened, I hope you know how deeply I care for your well-being and your happiness. I have an odd way of showing it, I know.
I thank you for saying that. I think it will be rather uncomfortable for a while.
Yes. Well, here we are. Are you ready, Miss Heywood?
Of course. Lady Denham has never frightened me.
No, I didn't think so. Well then.
Sidney knocks at the door, and they are admitted. Lady Denham sits in her receiving room. Miss Esther, now Lady Babington, peers out a window while a maid sets down a tea tray. A servant announces Mr. Sidney Parker and Miss Charlotte Heywood.
Come in and have tea with us. I was not expecting to see you this soon, Miss Heywood. As you can see, Esther is here, and Lord Babington is about, somewhere.
He is out shooting already. He cannot stay indoors while the weather is fine.
I did not know that you kept much game, Lady Denham.
Oh, we have nothing more than what we need. Lord Babington never stays in when he can be out. Shoots anything that moves.
It is a fine day. I'm sorry we missed him.
And how do you do, Miss Heywood? I thought you had gone back to, Willerton, was it?
Willingden. I have come back to keep Mrs. Parker company. It seems that Sanditon will soon be devoid of visitors, except for my sister and myself.
And how is it that your sister did not come with you today? I've been curious to see if she is as pretty as you. A large family is entirely handsome or entirely ugly in my experience.
She was tired from the journey, so she stayed home.
A delicate constitution, then. I was fortunate to come from a family with strong constitutions. We were prodigiously handsome, too, though my brother was homely enough. It was a good thing that he was to inherit, or no one would have had him. Is your sister pretty, Miss Heywood? Or shall I ask someone who is not prejudiced? Mr. Parker, what is your opinion of the younger Miss Heywood?
I have not had the pleasure of meeting her, ma'am. But Miss Heywood will tell you the truth. She is neither jealous nor prejudiced.
Sidney looks at Charlotte, but she says nothing.
My brother says that all the Heywood children are handsome and robust in health.
Yes. Well, Tom Parker sees the rosy side of everything. Take his view on Sanditon, for example. From his description, people come here expecting Brighton. I suppose I shall have to pay a visit to Trafalgar House and decide for myself on the beauty of Miss
Alison.
Since you will give me no hint.
I assure you, she is quite pretty, Mum.
I suppose she has a great many beaux, then.
Beaux?
Yes. Is anyone of consequence courting her? That is how you judge the level of beauty.
Well, before she was engaged to my cousin, the son of a nearby squire was hoping for her hand.
The eldest son?
No.
Then that does not signify. Any young lady with rosy cheeks ought to be able to attract the elder son if she plays her cards right.
Aunt.
I speak from experience. I suppose the elder son was already captivated with the prettier sister.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Yes, I see how it is. You blush very prettily. I'm surprised that you were not snatched last summer by one or another of the young men here. How is it that you are not married yet, Miss Heywood? You see that my niece made good on her opportunity last summer, though I had to push her hard enough.
Aunt!
I only tell it as I see it. So, Miss Heywood, Mr. Sidney is safe from you. But what of the younger brother, Arthur? Or is he smitten with your sister?
He has not yet met her.
Well then, take a lesson from Esther here. Make hay while the sun shines, or he may fall in love with your sister before you have another chance.
We've come, Lady Denham, to request your presence, and that of your guests, to a dinner party at my brother's house on Thursday night.
Thursday night? That is rather late notice. Are we engaged for Thursday, Esther?
We are free. Babington will want to see Sidney before he sails.
Very well. You may tell Mrs. Parker that we will come. I thought you would be married by now, Mr. Parker. Are you not to marry a wealthy widow? What came of that?
We have not yet fixed a date.
You do not seem to be in much hurry.
Preparations are still being made. I will convey your acceptance to my sister. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday, your ladyship. We will bid you good day.
Sidney stands up to go, and Charlotte follows.
I will just walk them through the park, Aunt, if you can spare me for a few minutes. I would like some fresh air.
Good afternoon, Lady Denham.
Sidney, Charlotte and Esther walk out of the house into Sanditon Park towards the village.
I do apologize for my aunt's discourtesy. She has always been very frank, but since her episode last summer, she has had no control over her tongue whatsoever.
I've been acquainted with her for so long that I am quite used to it.
Still, it was unpardonable for her to quiz you like that, Miss Heywood.
I'm not so unaccustomed to questions of that nature. I endure plenty of teasing in Willingden, but I cannot say that I enjoy it.
I do hope she will be more agreeable at your party. I know Babington will look forward to it. If you'll excuse me, it is cold, and I do not have my Spencer. I will take leave of you here, and I will see you at the party.
Yes. Goodbye, Lady Babington.
Esther turns to go to the house. In a distant field, Babington can be seen riding. He shoots at something on the ground. Esther sees him and waves to him, and Babington raises his gun in salute.
You know, I was not at all sure Babington would be happy in his choice of wife. But I might have been wrong. It would not be the first time.
I was surprised at how affable she was this afternoon.
I've never heard her apologize for anything in all the years I have known her.
Indeed.
Charlotte turns her head to look at the retreating Esther.
She seemed quite unhappy last summer. Is it possible that love has wrought this change?
I am sure of it. And these days, I am not sure of much.
Rather unusual for you.
Sidney gives her one of his forced smiles, then changes the subject, trying to be flippant.
But what of this squire's elder son? Did he make you an offer?
Now you are quizzing me in matters that do not concern you.
Sidney just smiles sadly.
You are right. I should not intrude. I look forward to meeting your sister. Are you very alike?
Alison is very pretty. I would say she's more gentle than I am, and not so free with her tongue.
Pity. It is refreshing to find a woman who says exactly what she thinks.
You did not always think so.
True.
I do not mind admitting that Alison is my superior in many ways, but you do not like presumptions made about attachments.
I quite agree. Too much like assumptions.
Which you rather detest.
Exactly. Except for my own, which are always right. And as you are assumed to be the beauty of Sanditon, I cannot assume it would be otherwise in Willingden.
Why, Mr. Parker, you astonish me. Where was this gallantry hidden all last summer?
Oh, I was put out at the world in general last summer. Or rather, for the last 10 years. I'm sorry I made you uncomfortable.
You were quite rude. But you did improve in the appearance of propriety by the end of the summer.
But only in appearance.
Charlotte looks away. Tears are suddenly on the verge. She dabs her eye quickly.
Oh, I see.
How long will you be in Antigua?
I do not know. Mr. Lamb's brother is trying to take Georgiana's inheritance by contesting the will. Maybe settled quickly, or it may take weeks. Once I get there.
And then she will be established permanently in England.
I expect so. She has little in the way of family there, at least family that she loves. She had an aunt on her mother's side, but they have had no contact since Georgiana left.
And why, do you suppose?
Her aunt can neither read nor write.
I see. Do you mind if I ask how you came to be Georgiana's guardian? Were you great friends with her father?
I would not say great friends, but he came to my rescue at a time of life when I was very disheartened. I am ashamed of my past, Charlotte. I took to the bottle for a while and ran up some hefty gambling debts.
And Tom paid them.
I'm ashamed to say I have had to be rescued from myself more than once. Tom helped me get on my feet 10 years ago. That was after Eliza broke our first engagement. He helped me find an investment opportunity in Antigua. I regret to say that I stumbled again after I got there. Mr. Lamb helped me to my feet. He was like a father to me.
So, you must know exactly how Mr. Molyneux felt.
Yes. I could not condemn him when I had been given so much mercy.
Did you buy property in Antigua?
I invested in Mr. Lamb's estate. I was thinking of buying it. He looked on me quite like a son. He began to teach me all about managing a plantation. But as kind as he was to me, I became disillusioned with the sugar trade and its dependence on slave labor. I fell into a pit of despair, and he very kindly gave me a hand up. By and by, I wanted out entirely, but I could not turn my back on the man who had done so much for me.
I see.
Georgiana was but a little girl then, but she and her mother were not free. Mr. Lamb had no other relative to whom he wished to leave his estate, so I suggested that he bring Georgiana up as his legal heir. I do not think she ever became comfortable with him, but she brought him a good measure of joy. He was happy to provide for her. When he asked me to look out for her in England, I could not refuse. Then he died last year, and the plantation was sold, and I received more responsibility than I ever anticipated. Or wanted.
I'm afraid I did not make it easy for you last summer.
You had good intentions. There is more evil in this world than what one sees in a country village, as you now know. I have to be on guard for her. I wonder, would you be so good as to write to her in London while I am gone?
Of course. We exchanged letters while I was in Willingden.
Did you? I'm glad you're her friend. It's been difficult for her to find true friends. Money has an odd way of coming in the way of happiness.
I think you must be a truer friend than she realizes. Does she know that it was you who suggested making her the heiress?
No. I would have her believe that it was her father's idea. And it actually was. He had already been thinking of it.
Sidney and Charlotte walk a few steps in silence. They're almost back to town. Sidney stops and gazes out over the sea.
I wish it was not so difficult for her to see that I'm trying to help her. She's so impulsive. She has this idea that I'm out to destroy any chance of happiness.
Well, I think it must spring from fear. She does not yet know her place in the world. She's not had the security of loving parents for many years now. She's suspicious of everyone.
Well, that may explain at least some of her behavior. I cannot be her father, but I will give her such security as is within my grasp. I only wish she could look upon me as a friend instead of a tyrant. I hope you will be that friend for her, Miss Heywood.
I hope I am that already.
It is the evening of the farewell dinner party. Tom greets his brother and Mr. Tracy in the foyer of Trafalgar House.
Sidney, Tracy, glad you could make it.
I like what you've done with Trafalgar. Nicely done, Parker. Nicely done.
Say, I've been meaning to ask, whatever came of that scheme you had to go to the Isle of Wight last summer? Did you go?
Indeed, we did. And a very pleasant time we had. Their promenade is quite wonderful to behold.
Was it now?
Why, yes. One can walk right out over the water on... What was the term they used, Sidney?
A boardwalk.
Of course. How silly of me. It was great preserver of shoes. And I, for one, take notice of such things.
Indeed. Well, we shall have to build one here. After we get the funding sorted, that is.
I say, Mr. Parker, I was surprised to hear that Miss Plum did not prove satisfactory when I sent her to you last summer. Her family has a reputation for good service.
Oh, I am sure they do. Mary was not quite so keen, I'm afraid.
In what way, my good fellow?
She was, too pretty for a maidservant, and perhaps a trifle saucy.
I've never found those traits to be undesirable. Have you, Sidney?
I suppose not.
But I suppose women have different ideas.
Yes, vastly different.
But it did not bother you to invite Miss Heywood to stay right after that. I mistook her for Miss Plum.
Well, Charlotte's different. She is like a daughter to Mary and me, or maybe a younger sister. You know, I did not even realize how handsome she was until the ball in London. Her goodness outshines her beauty, I suppose.
I would say they are one and the same.
And where is this elusive Miss Heywood? I've been longing to make her acquaintance.
Well, you shall meet her tonight. Ah, I believe the Babingtons and Lady Denham must be here. Excuse me.
Charlotte and Mary join Tom to greet Lady Denham and the Babingtons, and Sidney introduces his friend to Charlotte.
Miss Heywood, allow me to introduce Mr. Reginald Tracy.
Mr. Tracy.
Enchanted, Miss Heywood.
Mr. Tracy offers her his arm and they walk into dinner, while Sidney remains behind to talk to Babington.
I have been longing to make your acquaintance. Sidney has been tight-lipped about the elusive Miss Heywood of Willingden.
Elusive? Mr. Parker would be the last person to call me elusive. Ubiquitous was the term he used.
No, my dear. Ubiquitous is a word to describe something vexatious or common. Neither applies to you. No. To me, you were elusive. No sooner was I wise to your existence than you disappeared into some or another den at the ends of the earth.
Willingden is not that far from here. I do not think Mr. Parker defines ubiquitous in quite the same way you do. I was always in his way somehow or other.
And why would that be a problem?
Charlotte turns around to see if Sidney is still behind them and find that he's watching her from the hall as he talks to Babington. He quickly turns his eyes back to Babington.
He pretends not to hear you. Yes, I can see why he did not want to mention you when Mrs. Campion was about.
They reach the dining room and the dinner begins. Lady Denham is seated by Esther, with Sidney and his brother Arthur nearby. Alison, in dark mourning garb, is seated a ways down from them, out of easy hearing range. Lady Denham notices Alison's dress and gives her a curious look.
Who is that young lady seated by Miss Heywood?
That is her sister, Miss Alison.
What a horrid colour for her.
She is in mourning.
She's in such very deep mourning that either her mother, her husband, or herself must be dead.
And you have never been in deep mourning, Aunt.
There's no need to look that forlorn. I wore my grief very well.
Well enough to attract Sir Harry Denham, I think.
Lady Denham pretends not to hear and starts a new conversation.
Mr. Sidney, will you be taking any travelling companions to Antigua? Your younger brother, perhaps?
I should not survive such a voyage, I am sure. I'm sure to be skin and bones by the end of it, if I live at all.
It would take longer than 5 weeks to find your bones under all that pudding you've put on top of it.
I dare say you are right, Lady Denham, but I would not want to trouble Sidney. I would be deadly seasick. Sidney seems to be a man of iron.
You might surprise yourself, Arthur. But to your question, Lady Denham, Mr. Tracy will accompany me. He is from Antigua.
And do you have any holdings there, Mr. Tracy?
I do have some property, yes, but my investments are mostly here.
And you also went into law, I believe.
That is correct.
Are you a solicitor, Mr. Tracy?
I do not hang out a shingle, madam, if that is what you mean. I have many connections, and I am happy to use my knowledge of the law in the office of a friend.
I believe it was you who introduced Babington to Sidney.
You are right, Mr. Parker. And am I not correct in saying that that introduction has brought a most fortunate benefit to all concerned?
Indeed, Babington blesses the day I brought him to Sanditon.
That is most gratifying. Lord Babington, what attraction did you enjoy most? Was it the sea bathing or the exceptional view of the ocean?
Oh, I would have to say it was your view from your assembly rooms.
But you cannot see the ocean from our assembly rooms.
It was not the sea that I had in view.
Babington takes a sip from his goblet and looks at his wife, who impulsively gives a tiny smile before trying to look unaffected.
Ah, I see. Well, Sanditon does boast of some beautiful women. I am sorry to see so many of them leave, as the attraction of the town will lessen in these dull winter months. Ah, Morgan, what is it?
Excuse me, sir. The musicians are at the door. Shall I bring them into the library for now?
Yes, and see that the drawing-room carpet is rolled up straight away.
What's this, Tom?
As a proper farewell to Mrs. Griffiths and her charges, I have hired Mr. Cromarty and his quartet. You need not trouble yourself with the pianoforte tonight, my dear. We will have enough music for a whole night of dancing if we wish.
The thought of another unnecessary expense takes Mary aback for a moment, but she gets control of herself and stands up.
Ladies, shall we withdraw?
As the ladies exit the dining room, Mary quietly takes Tom's arm to get his attention.
Tom, with what shall we pay them?
It's nothing, I assure you, Mary. Supper and a trifling amount. We must bid farewell to our guests properly.
Mary gives him a sad, defeated look and follows the ladies out. The men stay behind to smoke their pipes and cigars in the dining room.
Say, Sidney, I mean to have a fox hunt this fall. There's some nice woodland hereabout. Lady Denham has agreed to host. I was thinking of next week. My brother's coming down. The Colonel, I mean. And Crow, too. When do you leave for Antigua?
Not for a couple of weeks yet. But Tracy needs to get to town soon. We leave tomorrow for London.
I'd come for a fox hunt. We won't be having any sport for 6 weeks at sea. Sidney, my good fellow, I shall ride to town myself and return for the hunt. Stay and visit your excellent family. You shall not see them for some time. I am not so helpless that I cannot manage for 3 or 4 days myself. What say you, Sidney?
There are preparations I need to make in London.
Nothing that can be done in 3 days, my good fellow.
Perhaps Mrs. Campion would like to join us.
Perhaps, if she is not already engaged elsewhere. I do enjoy a good hunt. We've had some good ones, Babington. But I think we shall leave things as they are.
Surely you can stay if Tracy does not object. A fox hunt would be just the thing to bring people to Sanditon. They can see what house they want to rent for next summer. The idea is pure gold, and Lady Denham has agreed to host?
She was not so keen when I first mentioned it. But fate has smiled upon us, it would seem. There's been a fox in her henhouse. She's lost 5 layers already. When she heard that, she was quite willing. Besides, more traffic means more rents for the next summer. I'm thinking of getting a house here myself.
Really? I don't know of any country houses available, unless you want to lease Sir Edward's cottage ornay.
Oh, we certainly shall not lease Sir Edward's cottage ornay.
I doubt it's ever been let.
Yes, it was for a time last summer. Cottages are becoming the thing, you know. I plan to have some built once things are more settled.
Esther wants a cottage. I dare say we shall build a cottage rather than a country house, for we will only be here in the summer, unless Lady Denham makes the fox hunt an annual event.
Yes, she must. Sidney, I know you would dearly love to win that hunt. Come now, you must stay.
I suppose I may, since Tracy does not object.
The men adjourn to the drawing room where the dancing commences. In the Trafalgar House drawing room, the quartet is playing and people are laughing and talking. Mrs. Griffiths and her pupils, Miss Beaufort's, stand up with Mr. Hankins, Tom and Tracy to dance. Arthur comes to speak to Georgiana, who is seated.
I say, Miss Lamb, how is it you're not dancing? Are you enjoying the evening?
I suppose. I dread going back to London.
I thought you loved London.
There is no one there which to see.
Tom is planning to come to London after Christmas. Perhaps we'll all meet together.
I did not know that. Will Charlotte come?
Oh, I understand. She's to remain with Mary through her confinement. Well, now here is Sidney coming to take you for the next dance.
Did you not ask me for a dance? I would much rather dance with you.
That's not something I hear every day. Sidney, you may not have her. She is engaged to me. But Mrs. Heywood needs a partner. You may ask her.
Charlotte hears this and turns around.
I do not need a partner. There are not enough gentlemen anyway.
Come, you must dance. Tom went to the expense of a band. He'll take offence if we do not dance to his tune.
For Tom's sake, then.
The dance begins and the tune is familiar to both Charlotte and Sidney.
Is this not the same piece that was played at the Masked Rouse?
I believe so. A pleasant dance, as I recall.
Charlotte smiles uneasily. She gives a slight shake of the head to try and shake off an unpleasant memory. They dance a few more steps.
You do not like the dance?
I remember this dance from the night you met Mrs. Campion.
I'm sorry, Miss Heywood. I'd forgotten that in the moment.
They danced a few more steps, but Charlotte is clearly uncomfortable.
Pray excuse me. I do not feel like dancing tonight.
She leaves the room, with Sidney standing empty-handed as the other couples continue to dance around him. Georgiana, who is still dancing with Arthur, notices Charlotte disappearing through a door.
What's happened to Charlotte? She's crying.
Perhaps Sidney trod on her foot. Not likely, though. He's an excellent dancer.
He has other ways of making a girl cry.
Oh, pardon me, Miss Lamb. You seem rather ill-disposed toward my brother.
Your brother, unfortunately, inherited me from a man who never showed me any affection. He may be more genteel than my father, but in matters of consequence, he takes care of me exactly as my father would.
Oh. In faith, he has your best intentions at heart, Miss Lamb. He's going to Antigua for you, you know.
Yes, and who knows but if it's to line his own pockets with my inheritance.
Oh, he would not do that, Miss Lamb.
I thank you for the dance, Arthur. It's quite warm in here. I think I shall rest by the window. You should tell Mrs. Griffiths about your visit to Bath last year. She talks of taking us in the spring.
Oh, Bath. It has so many attractions. But there are so many people. I hope Mrs. Griffiths brings all of you back to Sanditon. I told her, though, today when I met her in town.
Morgan enters with tea and coffee.
If you'll excuse me, Miss Lamb, I need to give Morgan instructions about my cocoa. Would you like a dish of cocoa?
No, I would not. But perhaps a glass of punch. But stay, if you please. Mr. Tracy looks like he would speak to me. I do not relish his company.
Is there any man here that you do not despise, Miss Lamb?
You, Arthur Parker, you seem to be my friend. And your brother Tom and Lord Babington I can tolerate well enough.
Arthur sees that Mr. Tracy is talking to Julia Beaufort. He gives a slight grimace and then turns back to Georgiana.
Have no fear, Miss Lamb. Miss Beaufort has captured his attentions. You are safe.
All right, and go and fetch it then.
Arthur gives her a surprised look at the direct command. Georgiana realises she has not been polite.
Please, Arthur, and thank you.
Mr. Tracy moves towards Georgiana as soon as Arthur leaves.
Ah, Miss Lamb, it has been pleasant to watch you dance. You do our island justice with your graceful figure. Perhaps you might honor me with the next set.
No, thank you, Mr. Tracy. I have danced enough for tonight. I'm rather fagged.
Pity. I've just been telling Miss Beaufort of your home in Antigua.
Georgiana will not tell us a word about Antigua. It's really summer all the time.
The weather is divine. The summers are a bit warm, but then we never have the cold of England's winter.
We have nothing like the English winters there. But the advantage here is that when the room is hot, you may cool it by opening a window. In Antigua, when one is hot, there's no choice but to stop moving, if one is permitted.
It must be a wonderful place to live. I wish I could see it.
It has some virtues as well as its vice.
Do you not wish to see it again, Georgiana?
Antigua has but one claim on my affection, apart from its warm winters. My aunt is there. She took care of me after my mother died.
We should persuade Mrs. Griffiths to let us accompany Mr. Parker to Antigua. I do hate winter in London. But for the balls.
The voyage is not comfortable, I assure you. Mrs. Griffiths would never go.
But we have never asked her.
Since Sidney is already going, might you take the opportunity to enjoy the warm weather and see your relatives?
Do you have cousins there?
My father's brother does have children. I do not count them as family.
Are they handsome?
I have not seen them since I came to school, so I could not say. Last I knew, they were ill-mannered and arrogant. I do not wish to renew the acquaintance.
Tut, Miss Lamb, that was years ago. They may surprise you by having monstrous improved.
Perhaps in the way they mask their feelings. In that way, they may have improved substantially.
Georgiana, let us all go to Antigua. If you are going, Mamma and Papa will let us go. Just think of sea bathing in January.
It is quite impossible. Excuse me, I need some punch.
Georgiana leaves the drawing room to find Arthur with Parker's butler at the table where the tea, coffee and chocolate pots are stationed.
Morgan, this milk should be brought to only a low boil. This has been scorched.
Pardon me, sir. Cook said it was ready.
Tell her to set some fresh milk on the stove to warm, and to take it off only when it first boils.
You are too fastidious, Mr. Arthur. Let it cool for 5 minutes and it will be perfect. Where might I find some punch?
Oh, I have it right here. I need only to make sure my cocoa was just right. Otherwise, I cannot properly enjoy it. It will destroy my digestion.
You have the weakest stomach of anyone I've ever heard of. Perhaps the seasoned bath would be the thing for you.
Oh, do you think so? Dr. Hughes says that walking the beach in Sanditon would be just as beneficial.
How can you have so many complaints? You look perfectly healthy to me.
Do I really, Miss Lamb? Fancy, I never thought so.
Have you ever traveled outside the country?
Once to the Mediterranean. Yeah.
What would you say to accompanying your brother to Antigua? There would be no chill wind to keep you from your beach walks.
But the voyage.
It would be good for you.
I don't think so, Miss Lamb. I do not possess Sidney's sea legs.
I have another reason for asking. Mr. Tracy seems to have considerable influence over Sidney, but he has no motive to help me against my uncle. I would like to have a friend there when Sidney goes to court.
Oh. Well, I'm certainly allied in seeking your best interest, Miss Lamb, but surely Tracy will help Sidney, and he has been his friend for years.
I do not trust either of them. Please, think about it. I realize that you don't know me well, but as a very great favor, I'm asking that you go with him.
Oh. Well, I'll be, Miss Lamb. To be sure, I know nothing of the law. But I shall think it over. No one ever trusted me with such a mission before. But I'm certain you may trust Sidney completely.
I am not certain of that. Please, think about it.
I shall. I thank you, Miss Lamb, for thinking of me.
The next morning, Charlotte and Mary are in the breakfast room.
Charlotte, I've been thinking, would you like to ride in the fox hunt next week? My mare never gets much exercise anymore. Would you like to ride her?
You have a riding horse.
She is not a hunter, but you will be able to follow along. She is stabled at Parker Downs in the old village.
I'd love to ride, but I do not have a riding habit.
I have a riding goat that might fit. It's not at the height of fashion, but it will do in a pinch.
Then I would love to ride in the hunt. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining episode 1 of Parker Brothers Build the Boardwalk. Today's auditory Monopoly scavenger hunt term was Mediterranean. Join us next week for a fox hunt at Lady Denham's. From all of us at DIY Austen, we bid you a pleasant week.